Good evening all and welcome to Tinker Tailor Solder Fry, the Let's Try program here on the mighty Loading Ready Run Video Entertainment Network. My name is Ian Horner and I will be your navigator through tonight's proceedings as we repair some sim race hardware that needs some repair. But before we get to that, I want to mention first of all, we, as always, over in the Crystal Gondola running the ones and zeros, we've got Paul with me.
Hello. I thought I was normally on the ones and twos.
You were, and you know what? It's all digital in there these days. I figure it's more appropriate to be ones and zeros at this point.
That's fair. That's fair.
And of course, we want to remind you that everything we do here at Loading Ready Run is, well, we do it because of you. And because of your support at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Not really because of your support, but your support is what it allows us to keep doing it. And it's your reviews which keep us doing it. So there's some give and take here. But the point is, if you want to support what we're doing, patreon.com/loadingreadyrun is a premier place to sign up for our patron and give us some money monthly. Of course, you can always go over to twitch.tv/loadingreadyrun where things are broadcast live, youtube.com/loadingreadyrun where things go into deep cold storage where you can become a member, and a reminder that store.loadingreadyrun.com is still asleep, and we'll let you know when that is back up and running. Tonight, as I said, we've got some race hardware to work on here. I got this a few years back, a gracious donation to the cause from our good friend Texan Reverend. It's a Thrustmaster, love that name, TH8A, or I guess pronounced Theta shifter. And it's been a reliable method of switching gears, even if that if we do get a little bit funny with the clutch. As I was saying to Paul earlier, holding it up here, you know, women want me, transmissions fear me. But recently, for some reason, it's become a little bit more unreliable in terms of being able to stay connected to the computer and not recognizing shifts. And I wonder why that is. And I think I have an idea, but I'm not sure. Paul, could you roll 212 for me?
They Wolverine's short. Like,
oh yeah, he's a short king.
He's a short king.
He is
like
tiny. He's like 4'11" or some shit.
Dude,
he's like tiny.
He is not a tall guy, and like they draw it like with no like holds barred. Like it'll be, it'll be like fucking Scott Summers and be like, haha.
Anyway, about Scott Summers.
Yeah, he'll be like, haha, I'm.
So yeah, that was a thing that occurred, which caused the shifter on this to become unworkable, I guess. There's a thing on most electronics on your cables called strain relief, and that's usually there to keep the cable from bending too far and causing the cables underneath to become cut or detached. And usually it provides a fairly good job of providing relief until it all comes to a very accelerated head on one point. And that's probably what happened. No shade to the Let's Nope crew, though. That was a complete accident. No one could have seen that coming. But what it means is that we're going to have to replace this cable because I'm pretty sure that this is where the problem is. And if not, well, we'll have a direct connection to USB directly. Normally,
so you've tested it and it has been. It doesn't work, or it has been intermittent working? It
intermittently works, and we do that test. Faithful viewers of Loading Ready Run in general may know about certain microphones have some troubles, and we'll need to wiggle it, and then it'll work for a while. And that's what I did with this. You know, if it wouldn't recognize a shift, or if it fall off the Windows USB bus, I'd reach down and twiddle the cable a bit, and it would come back on intermittently, and then it would go away, and then come back on, go away. And so, yeah, I'm pretty certain that this is where the problem lies.
And you know what Windows really likes? USB devices rapidly connecting and disconnecting.
Oh yeah, that's. Then you get the. I have gotten the nastygram a couple of times of Windows noticed an error with your USB device, so we're just not going to try anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace this cable with this cable, which is also a cable with some terrible strain relief. However, in this instance, it's a micro USB cable, and you know what that means? It reached its end of life. So we're going to chop it off here, wherever along here the problem is, and that will give me more than enough cable length to get me to the USB hub that we have on the racing rig itself and get it all nice buttoned up. Before we do, we'll of course test it on Windows here and make sure that it's working.
So sort of two broken cables into one functional cable.
That's the hope. You can be a little bit quieter. How do I make you mute? There we go. I'm sure we've got a button for it. Perfect. Okay. So that means before anything else, we're going to have to open this thing up and get it taken apart so that we can get at the USB cable. Thankfully, like many problems on the internet that are inherent in the design of the product, this has happened to someone else, and I was able to track down at least one person on Reddit who has had the same issue, and they were able to give some instructions on how to properly desolder this one and replace it with a standard USB cable, because there are some tricks if this comes up for you. Apparently also they did the needful and first approached Thrustmaster about doing a repair on their end, because this is, much like their case, fully out of warranty.
And I was noticing that it's got this very weird sort of quick release.
Oh yes, a DIN cable with, I mean, it's quick, but it also has the screw down terminal, which is nifty.
So it's like, let's take USB and make it proprietary?
Yep, that's the idea. But also to send out some other signals so that if you wanted to, you could hook this up to the wheel itself and send the signals directly into the wheel and just have the wheel be the only thing that actually connects to the computer via USB. I've been told that connecting your devices up separately allows for better polling, higher accuracy, and so that's what I've done. I've just attached a USB hub to the bottom of the racing rig, so that way I can, I only need to plug one USB connection into the computer still. But
okay, so but theoretically you can sort of daisy chain all the devices together.
Oh yeah, and just have it all be in one. I think in that case, this cable would terminate in something that looks like but isn't quite a phone jack. It's a phone jack with the little clippy bit pushed all the way to the side of the edge of the plug itself. So it's kind of difficult.
So a different proprietary connector.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good.
Yep, Thrustmaster does love those. So what we're going to need to do is unscrew most of these screws on the top of the shifter, unscrew the PCB, and unplug the cable from it. Possibly clean the inside. Mine will be pretty gross as well. I'm also going to do some maintenance on some updates that I've done to this, which Texan turned me on to, including a more realistic click in on the shift that I 3D printed years ago, and I'm sure has unscrewed a bit with some captive screws. And then there's a point where we'll need to unscrew and get the actual board out of here, desolder all the wires from this thing, strip and solder the new wires, and then we're going to have to bridge a couple of connections, because that's part of the digital trickery that Thrustmaster puts in, which makes it work with its own cable, but is unnecessary for basic USB use. Yeah.
Alrighty.
So I guess might as well get started in the disassembly here, and I'm just gonna wing it. It's been I've opened this case most of the way before, but I haven't done a full teardown. So yeah, I like to start with the shifter knob.
For some reason, the fact that the shifter unscrews like that It's very satisfying.
Oh, it really is, isn't it? I suppose it does have the opportunity for you to put a check bolt through there, but they have not. The nice thing about actually having it unscrew like that is that this is just a standard size for shifter knobs.
Ah,
So you could
you can
you can aftermarket if you wanted to.
right. Replace it with the all-important like 8-ball shifter knob or something.
Yep. Okay, now the question is which of the various sizes of hex wrench did they use, and did they use imperial and metric? And at least I got the first guess right, that it is imperial. It's nothing like going through all of your hex keys trying to find out where only to find that it was imperial all along.
Yeah. Once again, why we can't have nice things.
Yeah. If you're wondering why I'm wearing gloves for this, it's actually kind of just become almost like a tradition over the past few episodes. Arclight Dynamo's got the cursed RJ plug in the chat for those who are away from the chat right now. It's a heck of a thing to see.
Well, I guess they have that so it's not mistaken for a regular RJ11 jack.
Yeah, I would bet that you could probably cause some pretty severe damage either to telephone equipment or to your your Thrustmaster equipment on there, which is probably why they have the weird keying on it.
But it's just like there are so many ways. Like there are so many connectors that are like, connect whatever four little wires to another thing. There's so many connectors that can do that are off the shelf components.
Oh yeah, just take a DIN. Put a DIN in there.
Put a DIN in there. Put, whatever.
Round, square, whatever you like.
The fact that the fact that they decided to make a whole different thing just seems unnecessary.
If there's one thing I can say about the computer industry, it's that I still miss 50-pin SCSI. Talk about a robust connector. Okay, here's one of those first pieces of upgrades that we put in here. This is a shift gator that, it gates your shifts by default.
Oh, by default it doesn't actually have the gates?
Yeah, it only has gate suggestions, essentially. Well, it does have the full top gate in the metal, but the 3D printed ones, gives it a little bit longer of or shorter of a feel on the throw, and then you can also, and things that I've done depending on which car I've been using for Le Mans, they've also got 3D printed inserts to reduce the number of gears. So if you're only in a 4-gear car, or if you've got a dogleg reverse on one of the sides.
So you can make it so it actually moves the way that car's gear shift works.
Exactly, and then also you don't get confused when you're pushing yourself into 8th gear and the car isn't moving anymore because it doesn't have an 8th gear.
Neat.
Yeah, I also find the design of this particular thing very interesting because the whole thing just twirls. And that's because on the back side of it, you've got an array of holes that allow you to mount it either in horizontal or X or Y axes on your sim rig, depending on how much space you have or what's ergonomic for you.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you're saying that this is discontinued by Thrustmaster?
No, I believe it's actually still in production.
It's just out of warranty.
Yeah,
this particular one. But this sort of USB gear shift is something that they still produce.
Definitely, yeah. And this one is particularly interesting because it uses a Hall effect in here rather than any sort of buttons. So it's, and I remember this when I was redownloading the drivers. It also offers a calibration utility because it's just sensing that it locks physically in place, but it doesn't actually touch anything on the bottom. It's just joysticked, I guess, at a certain position on the sensor, and you tell the sensor, yes, this is equal to 8th gear.
I feel like this betrays my lack of driving knowledge. Is there an analog component to these? Like, could it be just 8 pressure switches on the 8 different slots?
Yes, yes. For sim racing, it very much could just be 8 switches. When you're dealing with a car, what's going on here is in the shifter assembly, at least on my car. Other cars work in different ways, but on the Mini, it has a rod selector, and so the shifter pole goes all the way down into the shift box, and in there is a coupler, which couples to a single rod that goes all the way to the transmission, and it's based on pushing up on the gear shift pulls the rod back, and that pulls the shifter in the transmission into a certain position, pulling it out and pushing it to the side, and then doing the same thing. It's all about twisting and pushing and pulling to move the gears of the transmission to certain points. So it's very physical and very analog, but really there is no half first gear. I suppose you could, some crazy designer could make a clutch and selector in one, so that when you're pushing off, when you pull to center, that's full neutral, and then pushing your gear slowly engages the clutch as you get to the gear position. That seems like a lot of moving parts that would not be good.
But as a USB device, that it's not like that gear shift is treated as like an analog stick. It's just 8, but it's effectively 8 buttons.
Yes, the driver outputs 8 signals as a button, but this physical unit reports to the driver literally just an analog field of positions.
Oh, right, because as you were saying before we went online, that it actually has its own driver. It's not just it doesn't just show up as like a controller or something.
No, exactly. The pedals are allowed to do that because they're just 3 separate axes, or even sometimes 2 axes they get away with on an analog scale. Sometimes it's brake and accelerate, or brake and clutch, but because...
Right, so theoretically you could use those pedals as controllers for anything.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's nice to have them also as separate entities in the USB ecosystem, because some driving sims play nicer when you have separate devices for pedal, shifter, wheel.
Right.
Rather than the one omnibus input set. All right, where am I looking here? The other piece that I need to worry about is this... there's a little switch in here that indicates whether or not it's been put in the right position. So you can always tell which position is up when you're twisting it around for configuration. And then you need to make sure not to remove that when it comes time, or not to break the cable when it comes time to remove that top there. All right. Okay, well, I started... you know what? I did their instructions wrong. It doesn't really matter. We're going to be breaking this thing open anyway, all the way.
All right. What step are we on?
We're on step 0. Step 0, remove the top portion. You won't find it on the instructions. At least not in the instructions written by a Jedi. This screwdriver is too big. This one should be more appropriately sized. This screwdriver is too small. We have no other option.
My screwdriver's too big.
I mean, it's really just the head is the problem, but I mean that is the business end of the screwdriver.
Although my screwdriver is physically too large to like fit into the particular spot, does come up occasionally.
Mm-hmm. It's also a good thing that you don't have that same sort of weird ego-driven size Well, I mean, specifically like what waiters have when they're giving you pepper. They show up with this 8-foot-long wooden monstrosity.
I forget what restaurant. There was a place downtown that I went with my parents like a couple of years ago, and yeah, it was literally like 4 feet long, and you know, she had to like stand back from the table in order to give you your pepper. It was, yeah, it was a little silly.
The irony, though, about that is that the company that makes those ridiculously long grinders is Peugeot often. They've been making those grinders longer than they've been making cars.
Wow.
So
It reminds me a little bit of the story of like, was it in the Lord of the Rings movie? They kept making the Witch King's mace bigger and bigger, and then they would be like, and you know, Peter Jackson would look at it. He's like, no, I want it bigger. And they're like, that's not what maces look like. And he's like, I don't care, I want it bigger. And then like, fine. And then they made it like stupidly big. And he's like, that's almost there, but a little bit bigger.
Oh God. Hadn't realized it got that bad. Oh, okay. I've never actually seen it from this direction before. I've only opened it up from the top, but so I don't even need to remove the top booty. Okay. Interesting. So yeah, it doesn't even have everything's on this little, in terms of electronics, this little bitty thing here. There's not much else that needs to be.
It's definitely got some well-worn use in there, eh?
Mm-hmm. No, that's the grease, and you want that grease because otherwise you get.
Has this been re-greased at various times?
No, it has not. But I did add some grease to the inside of this piece here. This is the aftermarket shifter piece. It was just printed in 3D PLA white, and then you've got self-tapping captive spring-loaded ball bearings in here. And the idea is that the stick sits between the ball bearings and is held in place by them, and then you push the stick forward, and that pushes it over the wheels, giving you a little bit more force to contend with, rather than the very not stiff.
So it gives you some more feedback.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a bit more to give you a bit more immersion.
Now, is this the kind of thing? Again, my lack of knowledge in actual manual transmission cars. Is this the kind of thing where there could be like a force feedback aspect to it? Like, does a real transmission have any kind of feel to it?
Yes.
That like resists movement in certain ways?
Yeah. I mean, it's the
depending on what your car is doing, I guess?
Well, different cars have different transmissions and different shifting styles. I've only been able to drive a Honda once, but they apparently have a very clicky feel to them, which I think I've just emulated by screwing these in just a bit more here.
But like you don't, different cars have different feels to their shifter, but what your car is doing doesn't necessarily, like you can't.
If you're feeling something through the shifter, there's enough going through there. Something's gone horribly wrong.
Gone wrong.
Yeah, you'll feel a lot through the clutch, and that's just generally finding a bite point there too.
When someone says they're like, I remember on like Top Gear or something, when they've got these really terrible cars that are breaking down, they'll be like, oh, I'm feeling my way into second gear or something, or into third gear.
Yeah, that's.
Is that the clutch? That's what they're doing. Is they're trying to find the position of the clutch to make it the gear shift work?
As the aux is saying, that what they're feeling there is the synchronizer or the synchro. which is in between your transmission and your shifter. It helps to bring the engine up to speed to help match. In the very older cars, when you didn't have synchros or you didn't have as robust ones, you could just jam the gears in immediately, and that would, you get a crunch, and then sometimes you'd blow up your engine because you'd be pushing into a gear that was far too low for the transmission and the engine to handle once you got the connection in. So now what happens is, when I'm shifting down into second on my drive home on my hill, don't be creepy, I will have to push a little bit harder or give the engine a little bit more RPMs to match the revs, and then that means the synchronizer has to do less work to bring the engine and the wheels and the transmission all in line with each other. Because what you want is the car to be in full clutch lock as long as possible. Because it's, anytime you're spinning your clutch against itself, you're wearing it out.
So in that context, like in the Top Gear or whatever, where they're driving these super beat up, broken down cars, the synchro is probably completely crapped out on them, and so they're having to manually match those two as closely as possible.
And often in that time, they'll probably have a bum clutch usually, which means they can't actually rely on the synchro to figure things out for them. So they have to find that speed where they're going to be able to push that gear shift directly into gear without engaging the clutch.
Cool.
Yeah. It's a thing. All right, we've got it cracked open. Let's have a look at the board here, shall we? Now, they suggest to optionally clean the inside of the shifter. No, this is grease. We want grease. Grease is good, and there doesn't appear to be any dust on it, so that's important.
I believe that's from a famous line from Gordon Gekko. Grease is good.
So it wants us to unscrew the PCB from here, which is held on by 4 tiny screws. Okay, good. We have 4 different screw sizes to deal with right now. 1, 2, 3, and the hex nut.
Awesome.
I'll pull those back for viewability there. Thankfully, they are all in distinct places, so I know where they go. And we've done the whole thing on tape, so if I need to, I can always just roll back and see where I went wrong. I always find it interesting to tear things down like this and see how they're, how the things I use are built. Again, I think, if you're watching this program, you were like me, and as a kid, anything that was considered broken in your house, you would ask to be given permission to tear down by screw.
Well, it's especially something like this that's sort of a mechanical thing. So often, especially in the modern day, you go like, oh, I wonder what's going on inside here, and you open it up, and it's like, 2 epoxy-filled chips, and you sort of go, okay, well, that wasn't actually that interesting. I can't learn much about it from that, but this you can sort of actually see it move and see how the different parts connect.
Aha! I should have been able to tell from the thing that had all the nice iron filings on it. That is the magnet. The Hall effect sensor senses, which means that everything else this is, aside from the mechanics, this is the device. This is what Nintendo. This is what Nintendo don't, even in the Switch 2.
They have redesigned the controllers from the ground up, but not Hall effect.
And nor the new other technology, whose name I can't remember the name of, but I know that the Gyu Kit King Kong series has a yet different non-contact based technology that they use.
Non-magnetic?
I don't know if it must be magnetic. Yeah, I think so. But it's rather than a Hall effect chasing a magnet on for 2-axis, it's a single one. Yeah, the previous King Kongs were Hall effect based, but I recall reading.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm always looking at new controllers because I keep having to repair the one I've got. I think I said out loud on this show even that the next time the buttons fail on that Xbox controller will be the last time I repair it, because because then I will have run out of replacement parts.
The Xbox controller of Theseus.
Yeah, well, at least the left button of Theseus. Okay. Unscrew the PCB and unplug the cable from the shifter. Okay, well, I think we've done that. Now it wants me to desolder. Dude, you're doing things out of order. I can't actually get to the PCB yet. Okay, I need to unscrew it from the back. But at least we found the grounding point. I think we'll have to splice that into the USB's ground.
I mean, the fact that this is all attached together with, screws and things is quite nice. You could easily imagine something like this could just be sort of sealed up in a clamshell.
Oh yeah, this sort of repair is one of those repairs that would kill some other controllers. Getting this close to the metal. In general, I'm really happy with how repairable and hackable Thrustmaster's products are, and it is an accident that they keep showing up on the show like this, but
I mean, that just means that it's not that they're particularly fragile, it's that they're heavily used.
yeah.
But the fact that they show up on the show like this means that they can be repaired, as opposed to thrown out and replaced.
Yeah, I mean, we've done mods and repairs on the wheel. We've done mods and repairs now on this part. There was that series where I converted a set of ADB Thrustmaster joysticks from the late 90s into something that was usable today via USB. So we've had our fun.
Yeah, I had a Thrustmaster controller that I quite liked, but it had that rubbery coating.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It started to go all sticky and weird.
You can't really repair that. It's just a case of get it off, and that is not a fun procedure either.
Yeah, I mean, I tried, for a bit, I was like, oh, it's got some gunk on it. I better, clean it off. And then, it's like, oh, no. It just keeps getting more.
Yeah. So I need to be careful here with getting this out because I don't want to, I don't want to knock anything on the board, and I don't want to tear the wires off because I don't want to have to trace a pad or anything like that again. But here we go. I think
it's all twisted up inside.
Yep. Nicely twisted up, as you say. Clean, I think, is the word I'm looking for here. And we're gonna have far fewer wires on the other side of this journey. So hopefully the cleanliness will be able to continue until morale improves.
So are you taking those wires completely off the board, or are you keeping them attached to the board and then attaching the wires farther down the line?
No, I used to think before I started doing more soldering on my own that, it must be much easier to splice wires together. No, it is not. It is much easier to solder wires directly to the pads than it is to clean up, solder two wires together in a clean way, and then also get some what do you call those things? Heat shrink on there. But yeah, I think we're going to start by snipping the wires at the base here and freeing them. This is a no going back. Boop.
Well,
Okay, we've freed the device.
you have well and truly voided your warranty.
Yes, I have. And we're going to need to do something about this this hot glue situation here first. Goodbye?
Do we need that?
Question mark?
That's like a ground attachment thing.
Right, that's right. That just connected to the wire. So if there is a wire we'll need to splice, it's this one. So we have the. It's not a spade connector. It's a useless shovel connector, is what I'd call this. Bad spoon.
Invented, of course, by Johann Useless Shovel.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? I think I'm gonna get my my horrible fingernails out for a second here to deal with this this hot glue, because I think that's a better solution than trying to melt it off. Yep. There we go. And,
A ring terminal, Chad says.
ring terminal.
Sure, you don't want to get the heat gun out to melt it off?
Yeah. We'll melt all the pieces off and then put them back one by one. I don't see a problem with this at all.
Yeah. Just put more hot glue on.
Okay, let's use a little bit of the, not the wire. Where's the wire? Hey, there we go. Hot glue, so useful for keeping wires held down until the tiniest amount of pressure is applied. Okay, let's get those glows back on now.
I mean, I haven't done like a ton of crafts, but in my entire experience doing any kind of crafts, I have never had hot glue hold for more than like 5 minutes. Like, I've never like successfully made a project using hot glue. It always like I do it and then it falls apart and then like go get something better.
Yeah. Up to and including things like fabric and felt. They've been terrible. Oh, good. The technology just.
I mean, I fully admit that I maybe was using the wrong hot glue or the wrong something, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I've used it for anything. Maybe no, I have used some hot glue for I think on the Dreamcast in a couple of places. Again, for that sort of stress relief, but I think that's where you're just supposed to be using Kapton tape, honestly. All right, fingers back in the humidity zone. Okay, next step, and this is another one of those steps where I really need to get myself a board holder or a small board vise. But what do we use instead? I think I've got
Got your little third hand thing, don't you?
Yeah, the problem with those is that pressure seems to be a problem. But you know what? You're right. Let's give that a try to start with. We can use it to lie stuff on the ground. Maybe. Oh yes. I mean, hey, the magnifying glass will definitely be useful at least, he says, as the magnifying glass just tilts downward. Let's use these to make it a bit tighter. That's not going anywhere now. Great. You know what? Let's use it as intended for once. Now that I've got it all kitted up. No, that's why I'm not doing that. I just remembered now is that I'm going to be doing some desoldering, which means I need to apply a certain amount of pressure to it using the braid to get the solder off. But You know, I may actually not use the braid. If I can use the nice pads that they've already got here, rather than having to repad that, it's a lot easier. So let's get that soldering iron started up.
Somebody's got to have made like some sort of stop motion thing with that. They're like, it's such a.
It is such an emotive character.
It has so much articulation to it.
Maybe as a friend to Luxo Jr. or something. Well, there you go. If I ever have to make a short film, it'll be about one of these little guys, stop motion animated. Let's just start with 500. Okay, I don't need that, but I do need to get a hold of one of the wires that I'm going to remove. So let's start with brown. And before we unsolder anything else, let's triple check our diagrams to make sure that we're working from the same sort of setup that they are. So if this be the diagram, top is going to be switches at the bottom. So basically we need black is ground, so we're just going to keep that as is. And that's, yep, we definitely snipped that off. So we might need to add a bit more wire there for that. But ground is ground. The next one over is gray, and that's unused. The next one over from that is green, and that is D+ on the USB bus. The next one over from that is black, which is D- on the USB bus. And then we've got the red, which is your 5-volt on the USB bus. And those are the only ones that we'll actually be soldering back.
So all the ones on the other edge of the board are extraneous.
Well, they're used for other purposes, but not for the USB.
Huh.
I'm unsure, and I'm unsure what they are myself, and they are unmarked. But now that we've kind of cut everything, it's a little bit late to do some bus pirate activity here. Also, we don't have a bus pirate.
Don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, but we do need to know because we do need to interact with these, because we're going to need to bridge red and white with a wire in order for it to work. And I believe this is, it's either shorting it out into a certain mode. Unfortunately, with many Reddit tutorials, what you get is this is how it worked for me. Why does it work? Don't worry about it. I didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
The process, but not the reasoning.
Exactly. So yeah, let's I guess start with the bottom here and work our way up. So I'm just going to pull on that a bit while I touch the soldering iron to the solder pad. They are using some pretty high test solder. Either that or my soldering iron is misinterpreting what 500 degrees is. Wow, this is taking its time melting. I'm beginning to actually feel the heat through the wire, which is never a good sign. Maybe let's add just a bit of fresh solder to my mix here, because that, I understand, is good for helping the flow occur. Just add a little bit of fresh stuff to the tip of the iron, and then we'll just get on there. There we go. Clean release. See, that little bit of extra solder actually really helps, I think, and will probably help the resoldering process too, once we get in there.
Just gives a better heat transfer.
Exactly. Well, a larger surface area, I think, is the physics behind it. Because without the extra solder, oops, got to be careful not to do that. Everything's fine. I didn't hit anything hard enough to knock it or make any marks, but yeah, you want to be careful how you apply your force. Otherwise, you can end up jamming into other parts. But what I was saying is the physics of it. It increases the surface area when you add more solder.
Right.
So that with a chisel tip, you only have as much of the chisel that you can make level with the existing solder, which is probably going to be in a bulbous form. So adding that extra solder allows it to melt across and get the heat in where it needs to be. So yeah, I will definitely be adding a bit more blob to each of these points here, I think, just to make it easier for me to solder the new wires in. There we go. Nice and clean. And let's clean that and add some fresh. There we go. Learning to do by doing, and let's trying.
Do by doing.
Don't bridge connections either.
Right, I guess that's the danger of having solder on the end of the thing.
Oh, this one just wants to stay. It really wants to stay. Add a bit more. There we go. Whew. And I think that there's no bridge between those two. Yep, looks good. Just got one very proud piece of solder there too.
Good job, solder. You be proud.
I found that particular piece of terminology, which I learned late in life, to be pretty interesting, especially given my love of Japanese culture, where one of the famous sayings that's always given to new arrivals in Japan from the West is, don't stick out too much. Remember, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. And so then to describe those nails as proud is you start to get an interesting cultural clash.
Also, not to put too fine a point on it, but I feel like no matter what you do in Japan, you're kind of going to stick out.
Yes, yeah. I mean, yeah. Physically, yes. And emotionally and in actions, it's... But that's the point of an ALT, or assistant language teacher there. You're not necessarily there to speak English. You're there to acclimatize the kids to people from other cultures. And you literally are there to stick out and make people feel comfortable being around foreigners. All under the guise of learning English. It's actually all about culture.
That's quite a sort of sophisticated understanding of sort of that, what has value in terms of the learning.
Mm-hmm.
It's that thing of sort of learning the list of vocab can be done whenever, but the sort of mindset and the sort of cultural aspect is something that's a lot more tricky to get across.
And especially being a very late stage colonial nation, their understanding of what life is like in America, Canada, Australia, etc., is a little bit clouded by their own popular culture.
I mean, as ours is of theirs.
Yep. I always think back to that very early, and I use the term early relatively here, early Simpsons episode. Did you know that they're in their 30s of seasons now?
Was it the Simpsons movie is closer to when the Simpsons started than now?
Oh no.
Like this, we're more than halfway away from the Simpsons movie.
There was a recent episode where Bart decides to start trying out mashup DJing. And
Why not?
And the Hood Internet, famous mashup DJs, were contracted to do the songs that Bart does on it. And that was a episode this season in, I think, 32. So. Like it feels weird, given that they went past the Flintstones very early and relatively in their run. And I think they're starting to edge up close to Sazai-san now in terms of the Japanese cartoons. They're long running. But it just feels weird to have a television series, an animated television series that just about needs to have its prostate checked.
It has a little bit of that like Archie vibe, where Archie is always sort of in the 50s, except they want to do stories about he'll be in the 50s, but he'll have like an iPod, or something, right?
Yeah. There's still a chocolate shop there somewhere in town.
Yeah,
for some reason.
and the Simpsons world is sort of kind of frozen, but they want to tell stories about new things that show up in the real world, and so those things will sort of be integrated into their world, even if it doesn't sort of make sense in the larger context.
Yeah, Springfield is frozen in time, except for imports into Springfield and celebrity appearances in the town.
Right, yeah.
And of course, the easiest way to date an Archie strip is just to look at his car. If he still has the jalopy, then that's it's pre cash for clunkers. I think we have actually. I don't think we have. The evidence is right in front of me here. We've successfully desoldered all the wires from the board. We've unassembled things, and we are now at the top of the hour, which is generally when we like to take a short break here. And so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to get up, stretch my legs, swap my fluids. You should do the same. And then we'll come back and do the resolder, and then the test of the theta shifter repair system. So don't go all the way away. Enjoy these ads. Welcome back to Tinker Tailor Solar Fry here on the mighty Loading Ready Run Video Entertainment Network. My name's Ian, and we are working on repairing our glorious theta shifter. This is it. This is the business end of the shifter. Of course, graciously donated by a friend of the show, Texan Reverend. I know, see you in chat there. Thanks again, buddy. We got all the extraneous cables cut and removed. We are now moving on to resoldering the new cable to the PCB itself, which is, come on down here into focus zone. It must be just a singular. I find it amazing that the Hall effect sensor itself can just be a single chip device that you just need to wave a magnet in front of until it until you've got the information that you need, and can be so precise with it too. It's a interesting technology. Hey, you know what? Let's wreck something. I mean, this is one of those things that was already broken, but let's cut open a USB cable. I'm going to give myself a generous amount of space from the head, which again, I mean, you can probably see how off axis that that connector is. God, I really wonder how this this particular standard came to be, because it feels not great. All right, I want to keep this clean-ish, so let's see what I can do.
You see the new super USB thing that is being put forward? It's not called Super USB. It's like has some other name.
Oh no, no.
It looks like USB. It looks like USB-C, of course, but it has it does like GPMI.
I was just about to say I haven't heard of a USB replacement, but I did read about GPMI today, the Chinese proposed white paper-based graphics standard that will have an HDMI-like connector and a USB-C connector on the other as both options.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just like, well, it's a USB. There's like a USB-C. Yeah, I thought it was a USB-C type connector.
Yeah, they will use the protocol uses two connectors, USB-C and a GPMI specific connector as well, which I assume will be on monitor sides, if at all, question mark.
And there's like a GPMI 2 or something. There's like that's like looks like a USB-C connector that's been like double wided.
Yeah.
Like a wide USB-C connector.
That must be the specified one, because it's.
And it can, it can push like 240 watts or something.
Yeah, the power delivery in it is what particularly looks most interesting. The power delivery and the bidirectionality of the standard are going to be super interesting.
Right.
Yeah, no. It's rare we get to talk about new connectors here on the show, but I'm always happy when it happens.
So, I mean, on one hand, yay for another thing that looks like a USB-C connector
Yep.
but has different capabilities. But still,
it literally is the USB-C monkey paw.
how is the USB-C connector like really, really good? Is that why everybody keeps it? Like, is it have some like? I mean, it's it's you can flip it around and stuff.
I mean, you've mentioned the big ones. It is well known. It will be mass produced. It is reversible, and it is robust in the sense that it's rated for lots of plugs and unplugs, and it can handle it.
I mean, at first glance, it doesn't seem that much more robust than like a micro USB connector. Like it's not that much bigger than a micro USB connector, but I guess it does have some sort of more oomph in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is where we need to make decisions, and I have I think I've made my decision here actually on how we're going to deal with this. Because, unfortunately, like every other piece of strain relief is one of those things that tends to be molded into the cable itself. There is no reusing the strain relief. So how do we get around that? Well, we don't add strain relief is usually the way it is.
I guess like some sort of like heat shrink tubing or something might
You might be able to
accomplish a similar idea.
But this, I mean, you can see here on the back side, the strain relief is screwed in here. It's meant to be attached like that to keep errant cables from yanking it directly off the tiny motherboard and ruining the pads. Which is why I brought out the assortment of zippity whiz bangs. Mm-hmm. So what my plan is here is to get enough space through here so that we have enough wires that can attach the board and can sit cleanly underneath. And then I want to attach enough zippity whiz bangs such that it will have a good attachment to the cable. And so if something hits the cable, ideally nothing should, because I'll be able to run this cable a lot closer to the metal and zippity whiz bang it to the rest of the structure. But if something yanks, it'll just be yanked against the edge of this interior hole, and hopefully that will be enough to keep it from yanking itself right off the board. That's my plan. So
Cool.
the first thing we need to do then, before anything else, because I absolutely have forgotten in the past and will forget again, is we need to put the cover over the cord. Right? I remember having had that problem before. I'm wondering if I want to pull back the USB or the fabric a bit more here. And I think I'm going to do that by just a bit. What's the best way to do that? Is to pull it down, or is it stuck to the internal shielding cabling?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's not actually indicative of anything, but I do have a bias towards the sort of woven fabric style cables. They feel like they're
Yeah.
They feel like they're sort of more robust and better designed.
I like the feeling of the fabric against my hand when I'm coiling with them. I feel like they don't get as sticky or dusty in the same way. But now seeing how they're actually put together, it's like, oh yeah, this is literally just another. It's just literally fabric wrapped. There's nothing special about it
No.
other than this external piece. Okay, let's now get the juicy cables within exposed.
Chad is disappointed that you remembered to put the thing on.
You can't get me every time, chat.
I imagine that they were just sitting there knowing that that was going to be a problem and being deliberately quiet about it.
I'm surprised there's not more betting done on this stream, to be completely honest, with channel points.
I mean, I'm sure that's something we could probably set up if we wanted to, but
Exercise for the viewer, I will say as always. Okay, so I've probably already ruined this. No, that's right. It has a big ol' ground around it of wires, which is a popular style.
I was going to say this is similar to my experience crimping SDI cables, where I end up with a cable about 6 inches shorter than than my plan because of how many times I have to go back and
Yep. Recut.
recut it, try it again.
That's it. Custom cables always feel real good. Highly recommend to everyone out there to make your own custom cables for whatever project you're doing. No, that doesn't go in that direction.
Although, as we found out actually in the run up to Desert Bus, for whatever reason, SDI crimp ends seem to be like weirdly hard to get now.
Really?
Like you used to be able to just like buy a bag of 100,
Yeah.
and now they seem to be everywhere. Every place that Johnny and I were looking, you can buy like one for $5.
Huh.
It's weird.
Because yeah, I remember that was one of the first things we did at the Moonbase Mark IV was sitting down
Yeah,
and
it was
doing
very
a bunch
handy.
of cabling.
Get a bunch of cables the right length.
It felt really good having, yes, custom cables. Here we go. All our friends are here. And ground too. Oh, okay. Ground is on the inside.
Ground
Our
can come
big
too.
outside friend was shielding, I want to say.
So USB
Wait a
is just
minute.
4 wires?
Yeah, there's a
Just-
lot more than that here.
Data plus minus ground and power?
Yeah. So are those both the same ground? I mean, there's an easy way to tell. We can just pull out the multimeter. What I'm going to do is burn away a bunch of this fluff. Goodbye.
Whoa.
You were unnecessary and smell great.
For those watching at home, please do not smell the wire insulation.
Yeah, generally, if there is a fume on any sort of thing that you're doing electronically, best not to put it in your body. All right, let's just check some continuity here. If ground goes to ground, then ground is ground, and everyone's groundy. Ground goes to ground, and also goes to. Well, it doesn't go to all the shielding, but I think we can definitely trim that shielding off. Unfortunately, I don't have anything hot enough to burn off braided cable, but we can dream. We can all dream.
So you're saying there's two, there's 2 grounds on the.
Yeah, for some reason we've got, as you can see, red, blue, and white, or red, green, and white. So I think that's 5 volts. I want to say green is plus, white is minus, and then bare is ground. So.
Ah, yes, the 4 colors: white, red, green, and bare.
Let's strip a little bit of this heat shrink off of our ring connector, our ring fit connector. And then we can do a little splice there. Splicey do. Whoop. There we go. Okay, so we're not gonna, well, let's just do some twistiness before we do anything else. Let's get the heat shrink on. I'm learning so much. Oh, that's too much heat shrink. I mean, it's probably as much heat shrink as we want, but maybe if I cut it in half and then do half and half. This will probably not work the way I want it to, but, or you know what I can do is actually just shrink this down as it is. Oh no. Yeah, the gloves are not helping for this part. I'll tell you what. Okay, gloves come off.
Oh,
We're serious now. We're taking the gloves off. But if I can get, some amount of, oh, no. There we go. Now we're learning. Now we remember. Okay, then we can do it in halvesies. But we first need to still get that.
63M Cobra cautions that the soldering will shrink the shrink wrap.
It absolutely will. It absolutely is going to. But I have considered this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to twist these wires together in a way that keeps them somewhat together. And then we're going to solder those together. What's probably going to happen is we're going to get a little bit of shrinkage on this side, if anything. Hopefully nothing on this side because I pulled it away enough. And then we should be able to fold it together in a way that's, that we can do this in 2 steps. So let's start by getting out our soldering iron and turning it on. And while that heats up, take a sip of this horchata ale. That's an interesting flavor.
Horchata ale.
Yeah, it's a. I've seen horchata stouts often, but this one is a light in color beer with notes of cinnamon and sugar. It's actually kind of tasty.
For a second there, just because of where it is on the table, I thought that bottle of compressed air duster was your
The beverage of choice.
was your beverage of choice.
It's full of delicious free monomers, but okay, this is always a thing. Getting a splice to take. Can I just try to? I try to just kind of paint on the solder bit, but with these thin wires, it's
I guess with the wire that thin, it's not like you can't use like a
full lineman splice.
yeah, or a one of the like the wire nuts or the different things to put stuff together.
So here we go. So as you can see, or maybe you can.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, there has been a little bit of shrinkage just at the tip end, but not enough that's going to cause a problem. So
then you can sort of fold and tuck it into the other side.
That's the idea. Yep, you got it. So tuck it in there. And then we'll try and jam this up even further. The heat shrink on one side. Probably not working as well as I probably should have used less of it, but let's see if we can get. Okay, now we're going to get one side and then pull down from the other side.
I see. So you shrink one side and then it's small enough to fit inside the other side?
That's exactly what I'm going for here. So that'll cover that. And then we kind of just pull this down over top. And yeah, it is big enough. Oop, there we go. And so we've always got the old heat shrink there. And now we can just make sure we've got enough space to cover all the exposed stuff. And finish the shrink job. And I think this shrink tubing might even be too big for what it is, but as long as it holds tight to that solder joint, that should keep it in a protective state. And I'm just going to push it down with my fingers too.
Heat shrink tubing is super cool.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. It's not as clean as it could be, but it's going to do the job for us.
For some reason, I want like a. Did they make like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 inch in diameter heat shrink tubing that just goes.
Goes all the way down to nothing.
Or just, goes down to like 1 inch or something that just sucks right down.
See, now I'm questioning whether or not the Shrinky Dinks actually, if it's the same technology.
I mean, it's a much higher temperature for longer, right? Because you put those in like the oven, right?
Yeah, and they are much thicker than Shrinky Dinks. Okay, that's not any. I do have a little bit of extra heat shrink, but it's also not any thicker, so that's not necessarily useful to us. I think because we need to do both the. We are going to be using both grounds. One's going to be soldered to the board, and one's going to go to the housing. That's where we want to go here. So double check the instructions, but it seems that that's what they've done in terms of the wiring here. This ground definitely is still connected on the USB side, and so yeah, we just want to kind of protect the ground from the rest of the board. is what I mean, not from the not from any of the wires necessarily. Tiny bits of heat shrink tubing are always useful. Okay, put that on there, and ideally that should shrink down enough that I'll be able to still see a tip, and if not, we can slide it off because it's not going to be tight enough otherwise. It's interesting, isn't it, that heat shrink tubing only seems to shrink in one dimension. But it's cooling, so we
I guess that's part of the whole.
Yeah.
The,
It's what
it
you
is-
want out of it, I guess.
It is the mystery of the heat shrink tube.
Okay, shall we start soldering things up? Oh no, we shouldn't, because we should strip the ends of these wires such that I'll be able to actually solder them to the board.
And now you're saying that you were able to remove the wires with the pads mostly intact, right?
Yes. So ideally, I should just be able to touch these to the new pads, and Bob's your uncle. But things don't always go as they seem. All right, now let's orient ourselves in the same direction they are, just so we know what we're doing. And it's red, white, and green from the right to the left. So we're gonna solder the Italian flag directly to it. Let's just make sure our cable ends are nice and clean so that they will receive solder. Okay, touch iron, receive solder, please. Okay. Gotta be more gentle this time. Okay. Gonna add a bit more solder to the whole thing. In fact, I'm gonna tin the other tips as well while I'm at it. In fact, I might just do that now, because that was a terrible join. Tinning, if nothing else, just makes the connection easier too. But I'm also going to, before I do anything else, dip these in flux, just to make it even easier on myself. Everybody gets a little dip. And for the second reference of the quarter, a little dab will do ya. Again, please do not go about using rosin flux paste as hair pomade. Okay.
Your hair will be so protected from oxygen, though.
True, but I mean, if you're about to film a Pepsi commercial, I highly recommend you keep anything flammable away from that area. Ooh. Okay, these insulations don't like being hot, so let's not hot them too long. Oh yeah, that flux just changes the game completely. Just immediate push button receive connection. And good solid connections too, I might add. Okay, and then we got one more. Just gotta place that. Oh, clean and clear and not a registered trademark. except for this ground wire, which my jamming of the heat shrink has not made this a good time. Let's just trim that down and just slide it back on like it's nothing.
So is there a like a pin or something on the back of the board that ground attaches to?
So that attaches to the screw hole that attaches this board to the main housing.
Right. So it's sort of grounded onto the housing.
Yeah.
Which in turn, wait. But then isn't the housing grounded by connecting it to the power line on the USB?
I'm not sure how they're doing it, but this is how I took it apart, so I'm going to put it back together the way I found it. Maybe Kapton tape? Maybe I'll Kapton tape that after I've got it connected, rather than try and heat shrink it, because the heat shrink does not appear to be working out for us. Or I could heat shrink after the fact, and that actually seems like a better idea, now that I think about it. This is where the hot air gun would actually come in handy for the shrinking.
Careful, careful. Wait, haven't you already connected? Isn't it too late for the shrinking at this point?
No. I have not connected the ground yet.
I see. It's the other ground.
Yeah, I was about to, and then it got all. Okay, so we need to trim just a bit more off there. Of course, I'll use this 2 millimeter long trimming of shrink tube in the future. I'm not a hoarder. Okay, now to maneuver it into position. Where is a spudger? This is spudgerish. Well, it's bent. I'm well aware that what I'm doing here might be overkill, but still. More solder on there, just to make sure it's all well and well connected and not bridging anything. The last thing we want is this thing failing because it didn't have enough good connection right on the solder, right on the pad.
Well, and not good connection is kind of the thing that you're trying to fix in the first place, right?
Exactly. Okay.
You didn't actually see anything broken in the course of taking this apart, did you?
No. But, I mean, where we'd see, if we were going to see something broken, it would be in this area here, either directly below the strain relief or in the strain relief. And even then, it would be very hard to... because we'd have to actually open up the cables themselves too. And I just, the most we could do is probably do a continuity test to it. And even then it's, you gotta go line by line and then do some bending to see where it starts to break. What we could do here is actually, and we should probably do, is a quick continuity on the USB connection itself that we have set up. We all know how well this went last time, so let's see how we did.
Yeah, USB connectors are a little tricky to...
Yeah, to properly probe. Okay. Need to make sure that those aren't bridged either. Let's see here. Was that connected to any? What was that connected to? Gray? Sure. Let's hope that that's not the problem. So it sounds like we got a little bridging between these two pads down here, but none of the other ones are bridging, so that's probably fine, honestly. So that's one. Pin 2 is oh, is this just the housing getting connected? Yup. Okay. See, I'm not even sure I could get a good non-bridge connection here. All right, we're just gonna have to wing it, I think, with this cable, given my inability to actually get a good connection on the A end. That said, we only have to connect one more piece of connection here before I think we can plug it in and just see if it gets recognized. And that's the key. So we got these in place. Let's just kind of bend them over here and hope nothing breaks. We don't want to do that too many times. And now we need to bridge a couple of the connectors on the other side, and that's the top and third connector there. So for that, I'm going to reuse some of the wire that they've got and just strip it. I mean, it doesn't need to be small, doesn't need to be big, but aha. Try again. Third time's the charm. There we go. That's a big enough piece. The worst part now is that the wire is currently holding everything else up. So, steady. Clean the solder off one of these ends, or at least clean it up a bit, so it's not so blobby. And here we go. You just hold that down and yeah, absolutely get in the way of viewing things. I think that needs a little extra solder as well. Oh, right. Hey, we learned something last time. What we want is flux, not necessarily more solder. You are now fluxed, as are you. You are fluxed. And fluxing changes the game, and we get a good connection right off the bat. And we'll do the same with, ooh, no, that was not good enough in my opinion. Release. Gotta twist you up and then do you again. There we go. There we go. That will be a straighter connection. Let's just trim the end of the wiring off a bit because it's ugly. Reflux it just a bit more. We'll probably need to do the other side too because my fingers are now getting covered in it as we spin this around. Add a bit of solder to the top of the soldering iron to tin that just a bit. Clean off your soldering iron. Make sure you're on the right pad. Bend your wire a bit so that it lies flat and correct. Touch your iron to the pad. Release. All good. Okay, time to do the same thing on the other side now. At the top. Gotta hold it in place while it cools. Hot, hot. Ow. Wire's getting hot. Let's give it a chance to cool down. Smells like flux. Okay. Ugly as heck, but it'll do the job. It's not coming off. That's all that matters. Okay. I'm actually just going to jam it into the computer and see what happens.
All right.
Let's, fingers crossed, everybody. Windows sound didn't happen because it wasn't plugged in, but, or it wasn't unmuted. But let's have a look at our device manager.
Right, you're saying that it won't necessarily show up like it's because you don't have the drivers on that computer.
I did reinstall the drivers, so thankfully that is good. Did I grab the calibration utility? Let's do that anyway. Okay, and controllers. Okay, nothing there. Let's unplug and replug. Okay, nothing there. That's all right. I haven't reconnected everything yet. There's still the button piece here, which tells it that it's all connected. So let's connect that back up and see if that makes a difference. Tiny little JST connector. Hold me closer, tiny JST. JST. Nothing at the moment. That's okay. Copying over the calibration utility just in case that matters. Where'd you go? Downloads. No, not Dodo. Delete already copied. That's weird. T. You're supposed to be on the desktop. Why aren't you on the desktop? Aha. The desktop just had not refreshed. Windows protected my PC from this, this Thrustmaster thing.
Thank you, Windows. Tex from Revan's asking, for those who arrived a bit late, what was the reliability issues that the shifter was presenting?
The reliability issues that the shifter was presenting were that the cable would not, the shifter would not remain connected to the computer and would randomly disconnect, oftentimes in the middle of a shift, and would take the twiddling of the original cable in its stress relief in order to get it worked, bring it back, usually until another shift. This is due to the whole device on the rig falling over and falling onto the stress relief of this cable. Yeah, so not great. But I don't think we've got everything fully hooked up correctly yet. So we're gonna go back and actually try and do some continuity tests here at this point.
So, yeah, are we sure that the right cables are on the right pads and all that stuff?
Yeah, we want to double check that as well. That's the easiest thing to do, so let's start there. So, with the JST connector on the right-hand side like that, we have red, and we have white, and we have green in the correct order, and then we have a blank, and then we have black for ground. We haven't also grounded this, but I don't know if that's the key. Then we have bridged pads 1 and 3 on the other side here. So let's have a look at it and just make sure let's have a visual inspection and make sure everything looks good first. So there are some things that are pretty close, and I'm unsure if we've got some bridging. I'm pretty sure that we don't have bridging on the ground pad that I thought we might. That I thought that might be an issue, but it does not appear to be.
But you're saying we have, but of course we actually want bridging on.
Yeah, on a couple of them here, on the last 2 pieces we soldered. So let's check that out.
So do you have to bridge, but you have to bridge without touching the one in between? Like you have to sort of hop over?
Yeah, exactly, which is why we've used a little bit of black wire there for that. As a reused, in fact. Okay. So let's just make sure that there's no bridging. Okay, no bridging where there's not supposed to be there, or at least if there is, it's minimal. And that bridging is correct. No bridging there. No bridging there. Okay, so the bridge that we want is proper. It's bridged the way it's supposed to be. These two, I think those are just bridged pads to begin with. And ground to ground is fine. Green and that are not bridged. Those are not bridged. And that's not bridged. So I wonder if it is just a...
just actually connecting that ground?
Yeah, or it could also be that this cable is hooped in a way that I was not aware of.
Oh yeah, that would be unfortunate.
Yeah. So let's see if I can't...
I feel like there's got to be some little tool or something that you could stick into the end of a USB that would like pull those leads out, so you can probe them properly.
So I was thinking about building one of those today, Paul, actually, for that very reason, but I didn't have any USB receptacles spare that I could do that. But I'm able to confirm that red itself is at least not bridging against anything, so that's good. Red is fine, and then none of the others report red. Great. So let's try the other side. Again, check against the housing. Okay, so that's... So, okay, those two, the ground and the ground and voltage are properly set up. Let's see if I can get my thing in there in such a way that it's not going to connect.
Right, yeah, I guess just a USB extension, a little teeny USB extension cord with the end chopped off so it exposes the wires would be the way to go.
Absolutely be enough, yeah. Do I have any probes that are... Do these probes go far enough to actually touch? Oh, they might. Okay, so this might work for us. If I use the spring-loaded probes. They look like they go far enough in. And if, as long as they don't touch the housing, they should be okay. So let's just see. No touching on the housing, great. So this should be either... Okay, that's good. Or is it that the cable itself is no good? Okay, well, green feels like it's okay. So let's check the white. Let's see if we can get that to connect properly. Oh no. Is our cable the problem? Once again, let's try green. The problem is the data lines are recessed just a bit, so they're hard to actually touch in the same way that the...
Because the idea is that the ground is supposed to touch first.
Okay, that red. White seems good. Let's try green again. Okay, so either there's a bridge between green and ground, which I don't think there should be, ever. That's D+. That should not be bridged with ground, in my opinion. Unless anyone out there can tell me otherwise. So let's just make sure that we are, again, very clean. Again, that just doesn't seem to be... visually connected. And a pin drag definitely says there's nothing in the way there. Do they bridge on the board? green and... Okay, they don't bridge on the board. So that leads me to believe that I might have been bridging the connectors elsewhere. So you know what? The only thing we'll be missing out on is some zippity whiz bangs for the stress relief. So let's try buttoning this up and see if that helps anything here, because there might be something to do with that other ground there. Troubleshooting when you're not 100% clear about where the problem actually is. Or also, I think the big problem being using an unknown quantity of a breadboard or of a cable. But let's just give this a little clamp down, trim off the excess. Then we'll do one from the other side. And that should be enough to keep it all held together. Oop. Or at least keep it inside the plastic piece. Okay, that appears to not go anywhere when I give it some force. So I think that's well attached. Whiz. Oh yeah, those are not coming out of there. All right, and then if I recall, this all just kind of lays down in here. One of these sides has the hole for the... Yep, there it is. There's a hole down there for the jumper. Oh, I might need to trim a whiz bang.
Trim a whiz bang. That's definitely sounds like a euphemism for something.
Yep.
Hey kids, if somebody tells you to trim a whiz bang, that's not cool. Go find an adult.
Yeah, we need to remove one of these.
Confuse the hell out of them.
First, we're going to need to introduce you to this Canadian comedy troupe out of Victoria, British Columbia. Now, do you know what a whiz bang is?
Wait, what? We didn't invent those being called zippity whiz bangs, did we?
Didn't you? I was pretty sure that's all on you.
Oh, oops.
Chat can back me up on this, can't they? Okay, one thing I didn't do is remember which orientation this thing is actually connected in.
Which I guess is kind of important for the Hall effect thing.
Potentially. Right, screws need to go back in though, and these 4 no longer are in use. These 2 are. That's the important thing though, is that we get the, it's like, the Hall effect sensor can't just kind of sit there, can it? Okay.
I mean, I guess that like the sensor, the orientation and the positioning of the sensor relative to the magnet is presumably very precise, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think more than anything, it needs to be within a certain range. And I think there's some wiggle room there, and then the rest of it, I think, is what that calibration tool is there for.
I see.
To say, yep, everything looks like it's where it should be, but also consider this. And that just connects to one of these, I guess. Yeah, like that. Like that. Perfect. And then I'm going to need a screw to pass pass through there so that it won't go away. Oh, reassembly is always fun. And there are 2 standoffs which tell me how I need to install this, in which orientation. So that's nice that they've provided that for us. Great, okay. Everything in position, and now just need to screw it in place. Nope, that is the screwdriver that does not help me. That is the screwdriver that actually hinders my forward motion in this project. Okay. Everything else looks good. Great. 1 whiz-bang remains for stress relief. It looks like it's in a good position. Okay, we get a nice tight fit. Everything's going into holes, so it'll screw down nicely and without too much. That's just crushing some wire, that's all.
Sorry, what was that last word?
Yeah. I just need to get in there and but move the wire around a bit. Okay, this is where it would have made sense to switch back to gloves, but yeah, that definitely was the place for it. Okay, maybe that's better. I don't want to be getting in the way of the Hall effect sensor either, is the issue. There we go. That feels like that's actually going to fit a little bit better. I've moved the ring connector outside of the edge of the hole. But even that appears to be causing some issues to get this screwed down in a way that's tight, but also not going to break anything. Okay, that looks good. And the wire is not in the way of the magnet, which hopefully won't cause interference there. Let's continue buttoning it up. And then once I've got, I'm going to put the top back on too. We can put the bottom back on if it's confirmed working, but I think it just needs the top on too. Make sure it's all connected properly. All right, so that means twisting like that. Yes, that's correct. So that goes on top of that, and then that goes on top of a lot. And then we get the big long screws, the knight of long screws. Helps with adhering. Okay, in there, and there, there, and now they're all properly mated with their holes. So it's just a matter of screwing them in. I was lamenting before the show that of the things I forgot to bring with me, one of them was my mechanical screwdriver. Wait, no, electronic screwdriver. All screwdrivers are mechanical. guess not. Ah, there we go. Missed hole mating now rectified. So at least we know if we need to come back to this, we can avoid having to take the top off. Although, given the time constraints, maybe this might have to get dealt with off screen. We'll see. I did promise that pretzels would eventually happen.
Delicious. Delicious pretzels.
Speaking of which, too, Cameron's shout out last night about the potential of pretzels had me thinking. The pretzels do have a 50-minute rising time, which I was only really planning on vamping on. And then he mentioned something about a queso recipe. And I realized exactly what needs to go into that 50-minute rising time. Okay. Plug the JST connector back in. And so essentially, electronically, it should be in a functional position, if not fully mechanically. So once again, let's plug it in and cross our prayers. Or oh, I like that sound.
Oh, that beautiful, beautiful
I've
sound.
never been so happy to hear the Windows hardware connection sound. Hey, folks. 1 second, let me get rid of the laptop in here for you.
So was it that grounding cable?
I think it was probably the grounding cable just wasn't properly connected and was necessary, but we have the calibration up and running.
Oh, wait, let me...
Actually, yeah, that'll be a better screen for you there. So, I mean, let's, as you can see, it's literally just tracing an analog path. So
Oh,
1,
neat.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the plus and minus is when you've got that switch held down, you take off the gator and it just becomes a forward, back for sequential shifters.
Is there any way to access this data directly and use this as like a stylus to draw stuff?
I'm sure there probably is, but yep, that's a successful connection. This feels really good in terms of me tightening up those.
And I guess the orientation and everything that you put it back in relation to the Hall effect sensor seems to be still.
Yeah, it retained all of its internal.
Neat.
Yeah. Oh, it's we're now getting. Oh, it wants to again. Yeah, there we go. 3 to confirm. 3 to confirm. Yep. 4. 4. 5. 5. 6. 6. 7. 7. And reverse.
Nice.
Love it.
That is. Alrighty.
Oh, reliability returns to the loading ready run garage.
So so this will make the whole the actual driving, like how long has this been spotty?
It's been, well, since it dropped, and I've only started noticing it a couple times because Assetto Corsa 3 came out, and I wanted to give that a try, or the new Assetto Corsa. The name escapes me at the moment, but it's out in beta.
That's the game that you've been playing for the Le Mans.
The original one, yeah, has been there for, has been my Le Mans of choice, just because it allows for so many mods. And so this new version, we'll see where the mods, we'll see what they allow in terms of mods, and I think the community will decide whether or not it's Assetto Corsa Evo. Thank you, Kumakori. But yeah, yeah, without having a reliable shifter, because I'd taken the paddle shifters off the wheel to apply the larger wheel. Again, thank you, Texton, for the donation to the cause. There was no way for me to shift reliably, which kind of made the game, if not fully unplayable, extremely unfun. And yeah.
So now you've got the wheel, and the wheel has buttons on it.
Yep.
Which are like all your like choosing a pit stop and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, that's your sort of mid game control. You could, I suppose, remap shifting to those buttons, but that's weird.
And then, does the wheel also have a paddle gearbox?
It does on the standard wheel, but because it is so modifiable, we swapped out the standard wheel, which has the controls on it normally, for a actual car-sized drifting wheel
And
for better control.
And the kinds of cars that you are typically driving in Le Mans are the kind that would not have that kind of a gearbox.
Yes, generally I prefer to drive the older cars, which flappy paddles were not introduced until must have been on consumer cars. I want to say some high-end ones in the 90s. Maybe they were in F1 in the 80s, but I'm not entirely certain.
Like that's just an automatic gearbox, right?
No. There's a reason they call them sequential gearboxes, because they're different from an automatic, in that you're clicking to move up the gear one, up and down in increments. There can be an automatic clutch control on that, which can use the clutch faster. But an automatic gearbox is something that selects the gear for you based on its own intelligence, whether that intelligence is computer controlled by the in-car computer, the ECU, or mechanically controlled based on speed sensors and other whirling bits.
Right. I guess my mechanical gearbox is or automatic is one that you don't have to clutch.
Yeah.
But
and in fact, those ones, sequential gearboxes, and the other term often used, I can't recall. Please correct me if you know, but they're often also called double clutch gearboxes.
Right.
Which is I've never done the research into why it's called a double clutch, but I assume it's something to do with being able to clutch faster than a human would be able to due to electronic changing of the gears and changing of the clutch.
The term flappy paddle gearbox is another one of those ones, like I don't know if Top Gear came up with that name, but it's
definitely what I associate with Jeremy Clarkson more than anyone else.
Yeah.
But
and as we were talking, I was realizing that I didn't actually know what the real name of it. Like flappy paddle gearbox is what I've always heard those called.
Well, also the internal alliteration of flappy paddle is just so fun to say.
It sounds good, yeah.
Okay, double clutch have two clutch mechanisms in the transmission. So I guess, flappy paddle is the generic term for changing your gears with paddles. And then whether or not you have a sequential transmission, a double clutch transmission, or a manual automatic transmission, which when I was doing my test drive for my first car, or for my first car, the guy was definitely trying to convince me that, it's exactly the same as having a manual. It is not.
A manual automatic?
Yeah, which is to say that it's an automatic, so you put it in drive, but then you've got flappy paddles or buttons behind your wheel that you can use to change the gears up and down.
I see.
Yeah. It's you can use it to kick down a gear on the highway if you want to climb a hill or do a pass, but it's not the same as being able to keep yourself in first right up to red line and then second right up to red line. Your car knows better than you do if you're driving an automatic.
Again, the making out behind the scenes stuff. I remember talking about the driver, the
Oh yes.
the Ryan Gosling.
The movie.
Yeah, the movie Driver.
Yeah.
Where he's clearly driving an automatic.
Yep.
But they put in the they put in the gear and he does the gear shift things because it looks cool and it sounds good.
I was to that note. I was actually just looking at some screenshots from Star Wars Rebels this morning, and there was a scene where they're on some speeder bikes and they've got the subtitles on. And of course, the subtitles have descriptive audio for audio that's happening.
Yeah.
And the descriptive audio for these speeder bikes, which I remind you are floating hover bikes in the Star Wars universe, the audio subtitle was screeching tire sounds.
What does a clutch mean if you don't actually have any connection to the ground?
Yep. But when you said driver, the other thing that had come up in my socials recently was some talk about the Driver, the video game for the PlayStation.
Now that is a fun game.
It sure is, if you can get past the tutorial, which many people, including Panic Software's CEO Cable Sasser, bounced right the heck off of.
Oh wait, is this the new the driver where the guy's dead?
No, this was
this is the original driver.
This is the original one where the game plunks you into a car inside of a parking garage, and says you have to do all these things in the checklist: some slaloms, do a lap, do this, and all under this certain amount of time.
That's the first thing you have to do.
And it is not, for me. It was nigh impossible.
It's literally, you have to qualify to play the game.
That's exactly it.
It's a qualifier, yeah.
It's a qualifier, but it's also brutal.
I mean,
and Diabor is now saying the tutorial was not required, and if that was the case, then I missed out completely on that.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe if you're gonna have if you want to make a really tough game. Have something at the very beginning, so it's still within the the refund window, where it's if you didn't enjoy this game is not for you.
So it's a FromSoft get good, but it's get good to play.
Yeah, it's just you must if you can't do this bit, then you're just not going to enjoy the rest of this game. That's fine. Not every game is for every person.
If you can't stand the poison, get out of the poison swamp.
Yeah.
You cannot get out of the poison swamp. Miyazaki will not let you.
I mean, presumably, though, if you skipped that tutorial, then you would just go into a bunch of levels where you're required to do all that stuff.
Yeah, and then lose there. But I guess maybe it's one of those cases where it's setting you up for playing the way the developers intended, and then emergent play is just drive on the sidewalk the whole way.
Yeah.
All right, I am just putting the extra screws that we had left over because we weren't putting the strain leaf back on because the strain leaf is attached to the cable.
Is there now that those zippity whiz bangs that you put in there are sort of your not strain relief, but at least
yank relief.
Yank relief.
Yeah, ideally, this is not going to ever be knocked over again. But if it does, at least I think we're actually in a better situation now. That maybe if it hits the ground, it'll hit there first, and then into the cable, and the cable has enough to go around. But it's in there securely. I mean, I can jam it in more, but I'm not going to.
I mean, ideally, it wouldn't have gotten knocked over once. If we're talking ideal situations here.
But I think it's in a good position. I like the way it looks too. I love a good red cable, And like I said, this, because it doesn't have the strain relief and because it doesn't have this big DIN connector on it too, I'm going to be able to zip tie it much closer to the pipes so it can follow them along on the edge of the rig till it gets to the USB port or hub, and then Bob's your uncle and it plugs right in. Oh, well, that had me really worried there for about 20 minutes as we troubleshot it before we put it back together. But I guess the lesson is put it back together before you test, because you might have missed something.
I mean, yeah, I gotta say, when it didn't work, and then you were like, well, I'll put it together and see if it works.
Yeah.
I was like, that doesn't seem like a great idea. But, that's sometimes you gotta take the leap.
Strange things happen when when you're configuring things in a way that or trying to use them in a way that they weren't intended to be. There we go. Got to turn it around so that it's in the proper position for when I mount it back on the rig when I get home. So let's button those back down just a bit.
Is the wheel currently at home?
It is, yes. Yeah. It is also, just for those curious, too big for my my day-to-day car. There is no way I can get it into the Mini, and I do want to get a paint job and do some modifications to the roof rack before I even try putting it on the roof rack. But that's probably a bad idea too. So thankfully, there's a couple of car share programs here in Victoria that are very reasonably priced and also very near to my house, so I can just grab one of those whenever I need to bring the wheel in.
But what if you set it up on the roof and then, Mr. Bean style, drive around your car with the USB stuff?
Paul, if there is
from the roof,
if there is a investor out there who wants to dump a lot of money into Loading Ready Run, that would be a heck of a fun thing to do, to connect to a modern car's electronic control system with the wheels and do the driving from a driving rig on top of the car.
Right, Waldo. Yeah, I mean, I guess they've done things like that on like Mythbusters and stuff. I know.
And I know that there are people out there who have, and this is absolutely bizarre and one of the coolest things I've seen, people who take their actual car and interface with the CAN bus system in such a way that they use their car as a sim rig.
And put it on like a rolling road or something?
They just...
They just like don't turn on the engine, but still have it all the stuff. It
connects to the computer, and the steering wheel turns because it's, again, steer by wire and power steering.
And then you just like have big screens instead of your windshield?
Exactly. And honestly, it means that you never have to find a place to put your racing rig. It's just right there, as long as you have a garage.
I did see a thing about a guy was, he had this, super swank, rig with a bunch of monitors and sort of the half circle and all the different stuff and the chairs and all the different stuff. And he was talking about how he's mostly switched over to VR now.
Yeah.
This guy's like some high-end YouTuber, so he's got, some crazy house, and he had like a whole room dedicated to this thing, and he's like, I don't even need this anymore.
Yep. You still need the wheel and you still need the pedals, but the monitors become... I was never really a big VR... In fact, I'm still not a very big VR person, but the times that I do break out the rig, or the VR rig, are generally for when I want to get real immersive in my racing, because it does... The biggest problem I've had with racing games and simulators is the lack of the feeling of momentum that you get in a car, which can be very important when you're trying to drift, and you're feeling that back end of that car move out in a different way than the front does.
Right. Yeah.
And you definitely don't get that in a static front ahead, never moving your head view in a car. There's a few plugins that you can get that provide what the system calls Neck FX, which I love as a name. which will then change the viewpoint of your in-game cameras to follow the apex of the turn, which makes it a little bit easier to judge your momentum. But when you're in the VR and you can actually, you're seeing the car or the outside world move around you in parallax, it's a lot easier to get over not having that momentum feeling in your ears.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fairly impressed with some of the VR I've tried, but it has been for a number of years now. And, I mean, because I have a pretty strong glasses prescription, it makes the whole thing a little difficult to swing, unfortunately.
I have a specific pair of my glasses that I use in VR because they are the pair that fits the closest to my head.
Yeah.
I do love the idea of getting prescription lenses for the VR system itself that the VR system is compatible with.
Yeah, right. Embedded right into it.
Yeah, but those apparently you can get those from some of the discount glasses like Zenny Optical.
Yeah, I know that, and different people have. And then the other thing that I have noticed, and I from what I understand, the newer ones are better about this, but the one that I tried, which is I think the one that you and Corey have, I was trying. Corey brought it in, and we were playing some stuff.
Well, the office has one as well.
But it really felt like just because you lose all your peripheral vision, it really felt like sort of looking through portholes. And I believe the field of view has improved in more recent ones, but that's a real something that really takes me out of it. I found.
Yeah, I agree.
But on the other hand, I admit, I was just playing that silly, what is it, job simulator game.
Yeah.
And after I was done playing, I tried to put the controller down on the table in front of me, which was not actually there. So I mean, it got me.
Also done exactly that.
So it's there.
Yeah, common VR problems. Tables that don't exist. In fact, I have almost put down a glass on a table that didn't exist too.
Oops.
Almost. When is Le Mans, Santos? When Le Mans is, I believe it is the 15th and 16th of June this year. Keep your eye on the calendar over at loadingreadyrun.com/live because it'll show up there when we are approaching. And of course, you can find out information about all our shows at the same place. And check out loadingreadyrun.com for links to all the things that we do. If you want to support us, you can check out patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. That is our preferred method of interacting with you in a monetary fashion right now. Of course, you can also go to youtube.com/loadingreadyrun and the panoply of other YouTube channels there, and twitch.tv/loadingreadyrun where we broadcast live. But yay, I'm really happy to have one more successful project under our belts here on the channel. It always feels good when we succeed on something that we try just blindly out of the blue. So from myself and Paul over in the Crystal Gondola, I want to say thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in a fortnight. Never in Fortnite, ever forward, learning out of spite. Good night.